Hello, my even. Now today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I actually scripted this one out. I've done a video similar to this on my channel because a viewer who was one of the first to really, subscribe and, avidly watch my videos and communicate with me on a regular basis. And, I miss the fella. I hope I get to talk to him again soon. He expressed his fellow interest in film, which, is a big passion of mine. Not just that, but film analysis. Now, before I go forward with this, let me just say that I don't believe there are any one right interpretations, like one could conclude about a movie. I think maybe the director would say, I'm going for something here, look out for this, because they want you to draw a certain conclusion. But I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather people not come to a consensus gentium on what a film's trying to say, but I'd rather they come up with their own interpretation, which is variable from every other one based on, the fact that we're all these subjective beings who are amalgams of experience. Do we have ideas or do ideas have us, kind of thing, and that with the ways we all see things so differently, I really do think that we can all come up with something, unique, and just based on the way we all see things and filter information. Now, the second thing I'll say before I get into this is I liked Key and Peele a lot as a comedy duo. I thought they were pretty funny. The movie Get Out, I thought was, I got the message kind of, fairly quickly. It's a fairly straightforward message, about how, middle class white people, go out of their way to try and be progressive, but usually end up doing more harm than good as a result. And, it comes from a place of wanting to make themselves look bigger or better than actually wanting to help the downtrodden minority. That's just me submitting it in a nutshell. I could be wrong. That was just my interpretation. I didn't personally see the why it had earned this hype, and I found some moments in it to just be like outright unbelievable. And this is coming from a guy who writes very surreal stories to the point of being nonsensical, but there is like allegory behind all of it. But then I saw Us. I didn't even bother trying to unravel, because I thought it was just like such artsy fartsy diarrhea. Jordan Peele was just completely vomiting all these absurd ideas over us and going look, isn't it so pretty? This is my movie, looks so good. Oh, isn't this such a smart decision on the character's behalf? Yeah, I'll say that the acting was amazing in that movie. I did find the double's voice, especially for the main character, the woman. I don't even know her name in the movie. That's how little I actually enjoyed it. But she had this gravelly voice and it's supposed to be creepy, but I just found it kind of hokey. And then they end up doing this weird ballet fight at the end, and I just thought the whole thing was so absurdly so outrageously pretentious and stupid. So, I admittedly was a little reticent to watch Nope, but I also did a bit of research, and I made sure not to look into anything that he may have said about this is what you should think when you're watching a movie, because this is what I'm trying to say. I don't want anything like that going in. I want to come out with my own interpretations, and if the director does want you to take a certain message away from it, I'll find out about it after. And I kind of did find out that my interpretation was, I think, on par with what he was saying. I mean, I have a few interpretations, but like kind of the main one, and also all the interpretations, about 3 of them, they all kind of bleed together in terms of message and tone. So, I gotta say, for one, I actually thought this was probably the best of his movies. It was the most entertaining, the characters were the most believable. I thought it had some very competent instances of building up characters and making their decisions, if their decisions seem crazy, understandable because of stuff like trauma. Like when it comes to the guy summoning the UFO, because he was traumatized by this chimp, and he never had this last moment of closure with the chimp before it got blasted. And so I think him calling on this UFO was him projecting out his trauma and lack of closure with the chimp. That's part of my interpretation for that, but I'll get into the main one here, which comes from what I would expect Jordan Peele to be trying to say, because not that I forgot my snooze downstairs. Oh no, it's in my other pocket. I'm so smart. That's me. Snoozing a good Americano, though. Mwah. Anyways, Jordan Peele, clearly, he wants to say something about race, usually. Specifically, treatment of black people. So, with that in mind, this is the main message I take away from it. And I'm no longer going to be calling the thing in the sky a UFO. I'm going to be calling it a cosmic... I was going to call it cosmic predator, but then realized the acronym of that, something you can't really say on YouTube, so I'm calling it the cosmic being. And I think it served as an allegory not just for colonialism, and how it essentially resulted in giant ships just aimlessly roaming the seas with zero regards for who they would encounter when they reached shore. And this is, shown in the Cosmic Predator's evolution towards the end into this being that it looked like curtains, kind of, or the ship's sails you would see attached to a mast. It was arranged in the same way. So that's what I think is trying to say there, but I'll get a little bit more into that. And it's also trying to say that these colonialists were so senselessly ravenous that they just gorged themselves on the land to the point of becoming engorged, and it's just these lands they essentially co-opted, but even just shit and puked whatever the hell remained, whatever detritus of the place they mined into nothing, back onto the people. I think that's a fair point, and I think this is it's signified when the CP, see, if I was to say cosmic predator, that would be something else, spews what it can't digest out onto the main character's generational home, right? See where I'm going with this? And so this metaphor is not exclusive to, say, the time period where African slaves were, culled and bled dry of body, spirit. Just slavery is a bad thing. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm a white guy. I'm mostly Irish, and every race on the planet were slaves at some point, but that doesn't mean, for one, I think that that necessarily makes me someone who's poised to comment on the matter, especially of another culture's just indignity towards persecution. That does not give me the right. So I'm going to say that right now. I'm not speaking with any authority on this matter. I'm just trying to interpret what Jordan Peele is trying to say. So without further ado, this metaphor is not exclusive to, say, the time period where African slaves were culled and bled dry body, spirit. This, according to Peele, from what I can tell, is a frigid, malevolent, and greedy machine that has harvested, humiliated, discredited, and otherwise taken advantage of, say, black people ever since. An industry led by white people, very much in the spirit of colonialism, that is trying to still take and, suppress these people. It's very much reminiscent of the Combine in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is not something you encounter in the movie. The Combine is described more in the book. If you haven't read the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and you want to read a very good book that will really put a great movie to shame, that's one. Because India is from the perspective of the Indian chief, so you see his delusions and you hear about his delusions. And one of them is that Nurse Ratchet and all the orderlies, they work for this thing called the Combine that was the result of his people dying and their culture becoming extinct and everything, and they're the ones who put him in the mental hospital, and they're controlling time, stuff like that. It's way different than the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I think what he's describing is the same thing. It's an industry of wealthy, privileged, foreigners who came over here and just parasitically, sapped all they could out of the land for themselves. Just carte blanche, fucking Manifest Destiny style stuff, and how it's still going on today. And he uses, I think, a very specific I guess specific industry that is still very, very influential in society today, to make this comparison, but I'll get into that. So to emphasize the current relevance of this continuous subjugation, he provides, this is the industry I'm talking about, movies, and more so the history of minority mistreatment behind the glitzy movie magic as his main way of making that metaphor. Hence why the story revolves around a group of a black family, essentially, that has been training horses for movies, and how they've never really gotten great pay or recognition, stuff like that. This is stuff that was obvious to me within about halfway through the movie. But part of me wants to think, though, that just to branch off from that interpretation about the movie being about, essentially how colonialism and just the continuous neglect, to put it lightly, of people who were either indigenous to a land or who were sequestered and taken from far away from their homeland to do something, how that is something that happened and is continuing to happen to some degree. And he's using movies as a way of saying, this has happened in movies for about as long as they've been around. So yeah, in a related but somewhat different interpretation that I don't know if he was going for more. I would put my money that if he was going for anything, it was what I just described. But I also want to get into this because I think this would be a cool message, and also I think it would be a brave message given, it has to do with people like Harvey Weinstein and Hollywood, just, perverts or people who have objectified and abused others, for their own means and done so with just the ignorance of everyone around them. So this is the next branch of my interpretation. I'm saying branch because, again, these all bleed into each other in one way or another, and I'll explain why as I go and at the end. And if you're still here listening to this, thank you. I know this isn't exactly just like prime time kick back and fucking chill out, sort of material, but I like delving deep like this. I'm not saying this makes me Mr. Schmarticles or anything. No, this is just me having too much time on my hands and putting the stuff down instead of just going, hey, that was a good movie. I got work tomorrow. I gotta go to bed. I am busy, but I've got more time on my hands than most people, and it allows me to do stuff like this. Which, by the way, before I continue, I want to say that I have, in my off time, written numerous story synopses that are all like really crazy, and they're all very dark, and I'm actually trying to make my own genre, and it's gonna be either like apocalyptic or Armageddon, like something to do with that as the title of the genre, because I want to, my stories typically result in absolutely everyone dying or like irreversibly fucking the planet as a result of what's happening, and they're all really crazy, really surreal, really inspired by like Junji Ito and David Lynch, David Foster Wallace. So a lot of stuff that like logically may not make sense, but in the world of, or through the lens of fiction, it works. I have showed these stories or read these stories to multiple people, because what I do is I make a synopsis first, or a template if I want to really get into it. A template, I'll usually put about 2,500 words into, this is how it starts, these are the beats it hits before it reaches the end, here's the end. Here's the characters along the way, here's their significance in the story. And I think I do, if I do say so myself, a damn good job of summing it up in a way that's like easy for others to digest. Because every time I read it to a friend, even if they're just like really stoned and have barely pay attention to anything, they always are like, wow, that's cool. And then they discuss actually quite in detail many points of the story. And the synopses I've done, because I've been churning out so many stories, have been very short. So if you want to hear them, as long as you don't steal my story ideas, please and thank you, because that's just, that would, I think, be like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I was stealing someone else's story ideas. Yes, I get influenced by other stories, and that'll make me come up with an idea that might be similar, but then I'll change it into something completely different that means something completely different. I don't believe in plagiarism. So and these are very original stories, and I'm just I'm not trying to gloat here. I'm just saying that I'm proud of them, and I have always been nothing but self-deprecating when it comes to my own work. So for me to say I'm actually proud of this, it is saying something. now, without further ado, so a part of me wants to think that what Peele was also implying was that this ruthless, sky-dwelling mass also represents the predators who are pulling the strings in Hollywood, like Weinstein, people who treated those around them like objects, i.e. the presence of the decoys to say that because it's, this evil is so devoid of humanity and like sociopathic that it doesn't see the difference between like a human being and a fucking sex doll, and so like I say, it's definitely like, this greed that just wants to consume and violate instead of, really regarding the humanity of the individual. And so that has resulted in Hollywood being either the people who are used as the sex dolls or the minorities who are considered too marginal to care about, who, as long as they keep their eyes averted, so they're not, because in the movie, if you look at the cosmic being, it will kill you. So, like many other predators. And also, if they do look, then, hey, they're going to be the next meal. Their lives, their careers, whatever, over. So, they're supposed to keep their heads down, their eyes averted. So I think that's what the whole, keeping your eyes averted from it is supposed to signify in the context of this being about Hollywood abuse, specifically sexual abuse or just abuse of power, whatever the case. Again, that's more of my interpretation. He may have not been trying to say that at all. He may have not even been trying to say my first interpretation. I want you to know these are subjective interpretations. So it varies based on my thoughts. These are my thoughts. That's all I'm saying. I'm no authority. I can't stress that enough. Now, on that note, I am really, really going to get into spoiler territory here. So I'm gonna give you a second. If you really want to watch this movie, I'd recommend watching it. Personally, I liked it. Do I feel the need to see it a second time? Probably not. And I'm the type of guy who likes to watch movies I love, like Escape from New York, or TV series like Utopia or The Wire, again and again every year, like once every year. This, I felt like it was fun. It was really well done, really well directed, had some cool scenes and just very neat images in it. Definitely the best out of his films, in my opinion anyways. But I don't feel like I would get anything more from watching this one again, even though I really like I've seen Inland Empire, even though that movie is so insanely almost headache inducing, and how it jumps from one very haphazard scene to the next, it's jarring, but I so wanted to understand it on a deep level. But that's why, David Lynch is one of my favorite people when it comes to this genre of, horror, psychological horror. Anyways, getting into spoiler territory now, so last warning. If you want to see the movie, I would suggest seeing the movie. It's a good movie, so bye, here we go. So, why did our hero break his survival rule and stare this unknown, albeit clearly vicious foe down in the eyes? Well, at first, this was what I think started as a heroic attempt to just sacrifice himself, be yeah, take me instead so my sister can get away, kind of thing. But once he realized that the only difference, and this is important because he's an animal wrangler, so I think there's that kind of backs up the credence to what I'm trying to say here. Is that the only difference between a predator and prey is not a species stature in the hierarchy of nature, but who could hold their ground and exhibit dominance the most. I.e., for the racial interpretation, I believe this is Peele's way of saying black people are more capable of going head to head with their oppressors, with this, violent, predatory industry than they ever have been before. Now, the Hollywood purrs, going back to that deduction, it's saying despite all the perceived authority and unfathomable ugliness these people have displayed, these abusers of their position can be brought down by truly seeing them, i.e., this Me Too movement being a thing because of Twitter. When it worked anyways, I don't know if it quite is doing what it should be doing anymore, but that's a different subject and it's a very controversial one, so I don't really want to get into it. I think sexual assault's awful, and I believe people who are truly guilty of it should be punished to the fullest extent with the law, so they can get a taste of it on the inside. And I think Me Too has kind of ended up being a mob rule and not resulting in the proper persecution of these people. I said I won't get into it, but this is me for you. This is me. I like trying. So going back to that, so truly looking at them and letting them know that their gross atrocities will no longer go unnoticed. Hence why they're using cameras to try and record this thing, not just because they want to make money. I mean, some people will probably do stuff like that, try to record awful things happening around them because they want to sell it to TMZ for money. I'm sure that's the case, but I don't think the characters are trying to do this for some self-serving purpose. And so this exposure takes the steam out of them completely and shows, it invalidates their authority essentially. And, they lose any menace they once had. Who's scared of Harvey Weinstein now? Fucking nobody. I remember a week after his accusations, a dude just punched him in the face in a Denny's. Fuck yeah, that dude. So how it's always the little people who spent so long in the presence of these deviances and who were even, often crushed under the weight of the malice wrought by these figureheads will be the proverbial, stones that slay the giants. The unbecoming of these demented narcissists that have taken the reins of stuff like, Hollywood movie industry for far too long. So these are all very similar interpretations. I'm not saying I fully agree 100% with every single one or disagree with them at all. I just kind of try to take this stuff as I come, and it's not my place to speak for an artist, so again, I really want to stress these are my interpretations, that's it. Though I do see the merit in, an artist just putting these little nuggets peppered throughout their, say film, for example, and, trying to, give you misdirection here and there to make you really think about something and try to come out with your own findings and, do that through your outlook. That's what makes, I think, personal interpretations of movies so unique. I just hate when people tell you this is 100% right. I'm not saying anything I've interpreted is right. That's important, I think, because I want you to make your own interpretation. But sometimes with movies like Us, I think when they're trying to give you these nuggets like you're sifting gold through sand, and instead of like with movies like Us, instead of sand, once you're done finally thinking about the movie all the way through for its long run time, instead of sand, you have a turret in front of you. I hate that, and I think it's, but that could be just a matter of my outlook. Maybe it is a really great gem that I am just missing out on, missing the point on. That could very well be me, and, I can't overlook that. But I think what's important is the viewer's outlook, their perception, their reality tunnel, what they take away. I did, like I told you, like when I researched this movie, I wanted to just see if it was getting good reviews from all the different websites. I didn't want to know anything he said about it, because I didn't want any preconceived notions before going into this, because I knew he would be trying to say something allegorically. But then I did find out that he was saying that it had to do with Hollywood and the treatment of black people in Hollywood. But I came up with this interpretation first, so I want to just stress that, so you don't think I'm just tacking on to what he said. So like I do the same thing with, say, DMT. Like, I try not to listen to other people's experiences, because they very much influence my own. First time I remember breaking through, I was seeing gestures and middle fingers and stuff, and it was right after listening to Joe Rogan talking about kind of seeing same thing. I think it's very suggestible, but I think it's important when a work of art is put out, and all these different amalgamations of what's really going on kind of mixed together with the material provided, and it's just, I think it's a beautiful thing that we can all read these different findings, Makes sense? And yeah, these were somewhat convoluted analogies and whatnot, but I think I think I laid them out in a way that makes sense. I would just give you a quick rundown of the Reader's Digest version of what each interpretation was. I actually have another interpretation to the movie as well, that has to do with the chimp, and how the chimp is represented as the cosmic being. The thing is, my phone is really, really low on battery, and I think it may die. I'm going to try to get into the chimp interpretation. I really hope my phone doesn't die. If it does, I'll just make this part 2. But like the chimp that goes nuts and eats the woman's face on the show, I think is representative of, obviously, before I'm going to get into what it means subtext-wise, is obviously inspired by the real case of Travis the chimp. Most people of you probably have heard of this, where this woman, she had a chimp. She was feeding it Xanax, junk food. It lived like a human. It watched TV. It went on car rides. And he was very passive and just kind of lazy, and no one ever saw him as a threat. He was very overweight, though. They're giving Xanax to their fucking chimp. Like, what the fuck? One day he wanted to go for a car ride, and the owner said no, and so the chimp freaked out on the owner's friend, which sucks for the friend. I mean it would suck for the owner too, but it's not the friend's fucking chimp, It's not her responsibility. She wasn't the one who, catalyzed this behavior in it. Not saying that the owner deliberately raised the chimp to maul her friend, but the woman, her face was torn off, and it was awful. I remember seeing her on Oprah, and they had that Oprah moment of her dabbing the tear away from her mangled face, and the woman who was attacked by the chimp in the movie looks almost identical, so it's obviously inspired. But there's also a line in the movie about Siegfried and Roy, and they're talking about how wranglers, have control over their predators, and they're like, well, ask Siegfried and Roy. So I think this speaks to how you're not supposed to take something out of its natural habitat and turn it into spectacle. You're, essentially being completely disrespectful towards its instincts, its habits, how it was evolved to live. You're taking it out of the environment it was evolved to live in, And you're doing so for the wrong reasons, just to make money, essentially. And this, again, fits into the theory of race. Taking something out of its natural habitat, going, dance, so I can make some money. I think that's another interpretation that I came away with. And actually, that was my first interpretation when I was watching the movie. It came to me about halfway through watching the movie. But anyways, I'm glad my phone didn't die there. This is, I know, a long video and probably a little more, I guess, cerebral, if you will, but I doubt it will get many views. I don't care. I just like sharing this stuff. But what I would love to share with you guys is my stories. But because of my insecure, self-conscious nature, when it comes to writing stories, I don't want to post any without getting, some urging to do it. And I'm also scared of people just taking my ideas and turning them into a no sleep or something, because I am legitimately proud of these ideas. My friends who are, also, writers themselves and, not afraid to give criticism. They've all really liked them, despite how nihilistic these stories are in nature and how grisly they are. They are very violent, so there's that too. But yeah, if you want to hear them, I would be happy to share some brief synopses that tells you the basic gist of the story. And with that, I've got to finish making plans so I can go see some fireworks, my friends, hang out tonight, have a good time, and subscribe, comment, all that. And if you made it this far, you are a fucking champ, man, and you listen every second, fucking champ. And I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm gonna do a big spoiler thing in the title for this video, because I did cover just about every major event, and also the underlying messages, not just for this movie but for his other movies as well. And one thing I want to say about Jordan Peele, I don't necessarily know if I like him as a person. I've seen his Twitter stuff. It's pretty like keyboard warrior, just obnoxious mouthpiecing stuff, and I hate that. I don't have Twitter for a reason. But and he also, with the Twilight Zone, I think he completely ruined it, hence why it got canceled after less than one season, I think it was. Maybe it was just the first season and then it was canceled, but it was canceled because it got such bad reception. Why? Because it completely reverted the point of the Twilight Zone. Like, the Twilight Zone, what made it so great, and I love the original Twilight Zone. I watched every episode. I love Rob Sterling. The idea of that show was to give you a very undefined message and to hope that you come away with your own conclusions. With Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone, he went, here's the message, 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 wham, 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 wham. Eat it up, eat it up, eat it up. I didn't like that. I've seen 3 episodes of it, and all of it just seemed like preachy, kind of like garbage. And I thought I've seen like the 80s adaptation, and I think it's 80s, maybe 90s of the Twilight Zone. I didn't mind that either. But there's actually some good episodes, like ones written by Harlan Ellison and Stephen King, which were like pretty freaking creepy. But I despised Jordan Peele's last attempt at that show, and I found it borderline insulting. So I'm gonna say I'm not a huge fan of the man himself. This was a good movie though. Check it out. Anyways, I will catch you on the flip side. I'm sure my phone's about to die. Bye bye. Have a tremendous weekend, friends. Mwah.